And I'm like, where's the water bottles? They're like, oh, we don't use them anymore. I'm like, okay.
Your work here is done.
Yeah, no. It was a pretty fantastic thing.
That was a big day for you.
This is the Drive-By History Podcast.
Welcome to the podcast. I'm your host, Ken Magos. On today's episode, I'll be joined by Professor Joseph Sarnoski, who happens to be a colleague of mine at Kean University. He joined us for an upcoming episode where we visited the absolutely remarkable Sterling Hill Mining Museum. Let's get to it. So, Joe, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm really happy we get a chance to talk, especially offset. You grew up in New Jersey. Let's talk a little bit about your childhood here in this beautiful state.
I did. I can't escape the state. I grew up in a what was a small town. It's grown up a little bit of Lyndhurst in the northeastern part of New Jersey, right next to what was Giants Stadium, and I left for a little while, but I always come back. I love New Jersey too much.
Yeah.
So, it's a weird thing because, every state has a reputation of something. And so you hear the goods and bads, and I just love New Jersey. So I never can get away.
Well, I'm always fascinated doing the show. I've learned so much about New Jersey. I grew up on the West Coast, but I've learned so much about the fact that it's not just the Garden State. We were the crossroads during the American Revolution. We have these amazing deposits from a geological standpoint of dinosaur bones, of ores and minerals. I mean, it's really a fascinating place. Did growing up here influence any decisions you made as far as what you were going to do with your life?
Growing up here really made my life. My father is a big outdoorsman.
Yeah.
So he would take us everywhere. We would go fishing. He was a hunter when he was younger, and then he kind of stopped doing that because I don't think he liked hurting the animals anymore, honestly. But he would take us out all the time. And I remember maybe it was just to get a very, very, very rambunctious child outdoors and make him fall asleep a little earlier. But we would go hunting for arrowheads. And I think every rock I picked up, he was like, yeah, that's definitely an arrowhead, buddy. Every triangular rock. And I don't think I ever really found an arrowhead, but they're out there. And he would take us out, and that started my love of the outdoors. And he would have us hike up the mountains, go to the Delaware, and then go down, we'd go down the shore, and all of these outdoorsy things started my love. And then, as I learned more and more about it, it just started this fascination with me. I was always curious about what was around me, which fish were around, what rocks were around, and everything like that. And he encouraged that. My mom encouraged that. And again, the good thing about New Jersey is we have this most fantastic geology of New Jersey. So literally, you can't leave. If you're a geologist, you never leave the state of New Jersey because you have everything. New Jersey smacked into Africa way long ago and then separated. So we have these mountains, and we have metamorphic rocks, and then we have this igneous process. So we have igneous rocks, and then at the bottom, the southern part of New Jersey is all new stuff. It's all the ocean deposits. So it's this amazing system. And then we have, like you said, we have fossils, and we have mineral deposits. Everything's in New Jersey. You can't leave New Jersey.
Well, no, it's true. I remember learning on a past episode of Drive-By History that one of the first almost complete dinosaur skeletons was found here in New Jersey.
Hadrosaur,
yeah. Exactly. Yes. I loved the story surrounding that too, about the guy whose farm, he was finding these huge bones and he thought they were giant cows.
Yes, I know. And that's the cool part too. If you go into the history of fossil finding, when the fossil hunt began, and once they realized what they had, everybody kind of wanted in on it, and everybody wanted their name on it. So they started just putting random pieces together.
Right.
And got this great, terrible but great thing that everybody had to clean up later on.
Yes.
But New Jersey was a huge part of that because the southern part is just, 65 million years of history that is you can walk through. Literally, you can just walk around and find these things that are on the ground that were in the ocean or on a swampy land 65 million years ago. So it got this, like, everybody's like, oh, we're in New York City anyway, might as well go 20 miles rather than having to go all the way out into the Midwest.
Right.
So
You mentioned something earlier, and I want to circle back a little bit. New Jersey, when you talked about it, the water here in New Jersey, we're not talking about the current coastline.
oh no.
This looked very different in prehistoric times.
Yeah, and we have this debate of whether like a central New Jersey exists in New Jersey, because we have northern and southern New Jersey, and they're very distinctly geologically different. And southern New Jersey, northern New Jersey had that big glacier come through, but southern New Jersey, that's really new. Like that just popped up last week, geologically.
Right. Geologically speaking.
Yeah, so geologically speaking, southern New Jersey is so very different. Northern New Jersey has all these like interesting minerals like we saw at the Sterling Hill mines. And southern New Jersey has a lot of sand and gravel because it was under an ocean not too long ago.
Well, it's interesting. So that was under an ocean not too long ago, and New Jersey is actually if I remember correctly, about the center of New Jersey is where the terminal line was of the glaciers during the Ice Age.
Yeah, if there is a nice, what we call terminal moraine, the end of the glacier, they're like giant bulldozers, and it pushed all that sediment, and it made, if you're really, really good at geology and you're really good at noticing things, you could take a plane up and you can kind of see this little like hill that was the end of the glacier, and that kind of is the end of northern New Jersey. So that's right near Union, right near Chatham area, and you get this nice little hill that you get to see that was the end of the glaciation, and that just a giant part of what would be American history.
So the ice also melts, and that creates flooding in the areas. Are there any lakes that are still existing here in New Jersey that are from that glacier?
Most of them are marshes now. Like we had Glacial Lake Hackensack and the Passaic River, and a whole bunch of geologic features and a whole bunch of lake and river features, aquatic features that we see today are just remnants of what used to be very giant lakes that were left over, because the ice creates these basically dams that hold up a whole bunch of sediment. But lakes don't exist geologically very long. Lakes are very, very quick features.
Gotcha.
So they'll eventually either fill up with sediment, which is kind of what happened a little bit with Hackensack, or the dam will break and all of the water will flow out. And so you get these rivers that eventually form, but these marshes and what we have as like these huge agricultural features, because they fill up with sediment, and that sediment is just a wonderful type of soil for planting, for growth, and for agriculture. And so that's what starts establishing our area.
Interesting. Okay, let's talk about your background a little bit, though, because I happen to know you studied biology in college.
I did.
Can you talk a little bit about that? And you also left the area. I'm going to call you out here on this too. You went to Pennsylvania.
I did. I mean, we can talk about why, but
that's okay.
We're going to get more personal then.
Yeah, no, it's fine. We don't want to dig that deeply into your background.
I'm an open book. When I was growing up, I had that interest in fish and biology. But when I was growing up, environmental science wasn't as large. And I didn't know what I wanted to be. I wanted to be a doctor. I wanted to be a lawyer, because everybody does at some point.
Yep.
And when I was going to college, I wanted to be a physical therapist. And so I went to a college called Elizabethtown, which was an amazing college and had a great physical therapy program. And you're supposed to graduate in 3 years and then go 2 years for physical therapy. And on my third year, I told my parents, I think I want to stick around a little bit longer and learn about environmental science. And then I didn't graduate in 4 years technically, because I just wanted to be an environmental scientist by that time. I didn't know. I don't think I found out what I really wanted to be when I grew up until I was like in my 40s. So
so yesterday is what you're saying.
It was last week
in geological time.
Yeah. But I love biology, and it's still my first love. Because the overlap of environmental and geology and biology. I always talk about the discovery of evolution. Mm-hmm. Evolution could not exist without geologic time. When we were talking about organisms changing, when Darwin was kind of figuring this out, and when everybody was kind of figuring out evolution and genetics, to have something like evolution happen, you need an incredible amount of time. And up until, not too long ago, we didn't think we were around that long.
Right.
So we needed the marriage of geology and biology. Right. And so that's kind of what entered me into geology, like this fascination with evolution. And that's where I kind of entered into geology and environmental science. And I very much fell in love with this field. Mm-hmm. And then I told my mom, like, listen, I'm not going to graduate. I'm going to environmental science. She's like, yeah, I knew it.
They saw the writing on the wall, so to speak. Huh?
Yeah. And I love my job, but like back then there wasn't, environmental science jobs and geology jobs are, few and far between. Mm-hmm. So I thought I wanted to make money. I didn't.
But then you went on and you got your master's in biotechnology.
Environmental science first, mm-hmm. and then biotechnology, because number one, I was teaching at the time, and they would pay for it. And so I 100%, if you're going to give me an education for free, mm-hmm. you're going to have a hard time getting me out of the classroom. So
that is one of the perks of teaching also.
It really is. Yeah. It's a wonderful bonus to teaching. There's the inherent gifts of teaching, but having that free education, it was wonderful. So I love biology and biotechnology was, immunology and the cells and all these interesting things that were kind of just popping up. Even like we're talking, nowadays where everybody's familiar with vaccinations and everybody's an expert now. Mm-hmm. So that's a nice thing. That was kind of a burgeoning idea with how we created the COVID vaccine. That was a burgeoning field back when I was studying biotechnology. So it was really like, before any of this happened, it was fascinating to me how we figured this stuff out. And obviously computers and microscopes and stuff, those are new inventions essentially.
Do you think it was also because of genetic sequencing, which probably would have been happening about the same time? That's
exactly it. So we were studying all of the discoveries of these, what computers allowed us to do, what we could never do with just microscopes and like in the lab, we then were allowed to do because of this new technology. And that it just fascinated me. And I'm a computer guy at my heart. Mm-hmm. But I can't sit in front of a computer. I need something else to do. So
yeah, we're going to get into that because you do about 7 different things.
my one of my favorite coworkers who just retired, bye Chip, I love you. He called me a Renaissance man, which may be the greatest compliment anybody could ever give me. But I've never. It's not so much that I do think it's just an inherent curiosity, I guess. I'm always, I want to know what's going on around me. Mm-hmm. And I have a problem saying no. So,
well, that's good to know. We'll call you in for the future and for the show and know that you'll say yes.
Yes, I will.
So I'm curious, do you have such an understanding of the earth? You have such an understanding of our environment, and sustainability is something that you're drawn to. Can you talk a little bit about that?
That is my favorite class to teach, my sustainability class, because when I was young, it wasn't just talked about that much. But going back to my father, like we would fish, and we always practiced CPR. It was catch, photo, and release.
Yep.
And so we would catch these fish, and he was like, big fish make other big fish.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, that started me. Now he calls me a tree hugger as a joke, but like he started me on this path, and I, it really, became part of what I practice and preach in my courses, because you really see the change around you. And, like I said, I didn't know what I wanted to be, but I think the biggest difference I can make is teaching people how big of the difference that you can make individually, because oftentimes people think that the world is so much bigger than them, and it is, but they think that they can't make a difference because their individual choices are such a small part. But it's such a big part when you're doing something and people see what you're doing and then change their behaviors, because they're like, well, he might know something. So they start investigating. And that's what it's not so much about your behavior. It's about making people realize that there is changes that we can make, and then moving towards that. And like just me, like in my classrooms, we don't use plastic water bottles.
Right. I was going to mention, you had told me that you model that behavior. You don't allow any plastic bottles in your classroom.
Yeah, no, you cannot have plastic water bottles. And it's a simple thing because, I know we can recycle, but we don't recycle a lot. And even when it goes through the recycling process, it's an imperfect process. Mm-hmm. And so I want them to realize that it's a simple thing you can change. And if we stop doing it, we're going to make a much bigger change overall. And once people just start doing it, for millions of years, or for human history, hundreds of thousands of years, we didn't have water bottles, plastic water bottles. And then all of a sudden we can't live without them. So reminding them that we can, and then like the biggest change, going back to my parents, I once went over to their house and they always have water bottles in their fridge. And one day they didn't have them. And I'm like, where's the water bottles? They're like, oh, we don't use them anymore. I'm like, okay.
Your work here is done.
Yeah, no, it was a pretty fantastic thing.
That was a big day for you.
It really was. I remember it.
That's amazing. So I have a question for you then. Are we moving toward technologies that will actually eliminate the need for plastics for water bottles? Because obviously for transportation needs, for people who are in deprived communities, that's a good way to get them clean, fresh water.
Yes. And that's the thing. It's always the talk I have. It's not about eliminating any behavior. I don't want to, I eat much, 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 much less meat than I ever ate in my life. Mm-hmm. And it's not about because on my birthday, you're going to see me with a giant steak in front of me. Mm-hmm. I never want that steak to go away. And I don't want plastics to go away. Plastics are critical for our society. We're, especially the medical community. We can't eliminate plastics. Right. We just want to reduce it. And that's what I want to talk about, because I do want those water bottles available for when we talk about areas like Flint, Michigan. Mm-hmm. When you're transitioning from a situation, you need a solution. Just like our cars. I don't want, electric cars aren't necessarily a solution. Mm-hmm. They're a transition. And any better, like you said, any better technology is going to make our society better. So it's a marriage of this system.
Well, and I see it as someone who drives an electric car. I want to try and do my part. Maybe I'm helping, maybe I'm not. But I think what's most important to me is that I'm seeing the technology of batteries changing so rapidly. It has pushed that discussion forward. And I think that's the most important thing. It was not a priority. It is now a priority. And that's
it. Like, obviously, in capitalism, we want to go where the money goes. Right. And not for nothing, that's why I have my phone sitting here. Mm-hmm. Back in the Zach Morris phone days, we had those giant phones. And what prompted them to get smaller and smaller and smaller is because people wanted the batteries to last longer and longer. I remember my first phone lasted a whole 20 minutes of talk time. Wow. 20 minutes. Oh, that was innovative back.
Oh, yeah.
And so like the battery manufacturers saw that drive, and that's what really prompted them to push and push and push. Mm-hmm. So investing in something like an electric car, investing even in better water bottles, that pushes us to a better, more sustainable future. And I like that. I'll take that every day.
Good. Where do you see us in 10 years then? What do you think the goal should be?
Oh, ooh, that's
I know.
It's an interview question. Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Not you, with the industry. It's like, how do you see us changing? We're obviously, I think we're living through an era of change. We're living through a time when people can actually see some of the effects of our behaviors.
And I think that's what we're seeing more and more. And I think what also we're seeing is kind of the culmination of all that we've done for the last 150 years.
Yes.
And so we're seeing a much larger impact of what we've done. And we realize that, there's all this controversy about a lot of topics in environmental and sustainability. But you know that there's a truth behind it, because you're seeing companies and corporations invest in sustainability because they know the products that they're making will not be around in a certain amount of time. We're running out of the metals. We're stealing catalytic converters and stuff like that, because the metals are so valuable to us and precious that we're seeing that a future doing what we're doing is impossible. So we are going to see that investment of corporations and of us, like in our electric cars and vehicles. We're going to see that transition because there's no future to something. Even oil, like we're married to oil, but we can't be, because there's going to be a divorce soon enough. At some point, we just don't have it.
Well, it has a finite supply. I mean, it's not something we can create out of thin air.
Yeah, exactly. So as much as like we might be married to it, like that marriage again, it's got to end sometime. And so we're seeing that transition, and I think we're going to see that transition faster, because as much as we love oil makes a whole bunch of other stuff that we're not aware of sometimes. So even the plastics and I
was just going to say plastics are one of them. Yeah.
And so like we're going to have to either spend an incredible amount to get that little bit left, or we're going to have to transition away. What scares me is like planes. We're going to have to figure something out in the future. And they're talking about solar power. It takes a lot of energy to get that plane off the ground. So,
well, it's funny because I was just watching a video yesterday about a new electric car that's coming out that has solar panels on the roof. And they said, okay, it's great, but it's lip service.
Yeah, it is.
You're going to get maybe 150 miles out of that solar power over a year.
Yes.
Over a year.
Yeah.
That's not going to help.
Well, that's the thing. We forget how much energy it takes, because it's a physics problem. Energy becomes a physics problem. And to get a plane off the ground takes all of the energy. Once you're up in the air, do whatever you want.
Right.
But to get it off the ground. And so like, you can stick all the solar panels you want on that plane. It ain't getting off the ground. Right. So we're going to be on giant slingshots, maybe, like just a big rubber band.
Yeah, there's a visual. Like launching off of a ship in the ocean.
I mean, there was a guy that tried it once. They were trying to build a giant platform in the ocean to shoot things into the air, like slingshot them. So yeah, we have a weird history in science. So
yeah, but you got to try to find out if it works.
That's the scientific process.
That's right. That's right. Yes, so, trial and error. See what happens with it. Well, it's interesting. So at least there's some hope. We're both working with college students.
Yeah,
we're both teaching college, I should say, and I find that those students are so malleable and they're so open to change, and they want to make sure that we help them ensure their own futures.
And and again, this is how I ended. I never thought I'd be a professor. I never thought I'd be a teacher. It wasn't really where my career path was. I wanted to be outdoors. I wanted to be, fishing and testing soil and testing water and things like that. And I truly found my love in the classroom, because I really feel like I make I know it sounds so like wishy-washy, but I truly feel like I make the biggest difference in the world by doing that. Like, because like you said, these students, a lot of them, especially where we teach, they're coming from a background where they don't, number one, get outdoors very much.
Right.
And they haven't been exposed to these ideas because they're in an urban environment, maybe, or they're, and me too. Like, as much as I said my dad took me outdoors, we didn't have much money to just travel around the world. We didn't travel around the world. So we were kind of stuck to New Jersey. Luckily enough, New Jersey. Yeah. But we were stuck where we were. So you need these bigger things and these bigger ideas, and it's fun to like talk about some stuff, and the beauty of technology is like when I mention something in class and my students are like, what, that's a thing? And I'm like, oh wait, there's a video for it. Yep. So it's the beauty of like YouTube. It's like when I talk about like a landslide or something like that, or an earthquake, and they're like, this happened? And I'm like, oh, we have videos of it, watch. And so you get to see these fantastic things that happen thousands of miles away, and their eyes open. They're like, wow, this is something bigger than I am, and then get to understand that process. It's awesome.
Oh yeah, and everybody has a video camera in their pocket.
Yeah, I know.
So you can document. I know exactly. The curse of being available 24/7, but also being able to document everything that happens.
Everything. And that's again, there's some things geologically that we thought existed, and we never could document, we never could really prove it, and now we have videos of it because somebody just happened to have a phone with them at that exact moment.
Yeah. I'm still waiting for the Bigfoot footage. I'm still waiting for the alien abduction footage. I'm still waiting for all of those things.
My buddy that lives nearby me loves the alien conspiracy theory kind of stuff. And so he has his own website about it.
That's great.
He's waiting for those videos as well.
Well, I grew up in the Northwest and everybody talked about Bigfoot. I've never seen one. Never. Not once.
Listen, we have the Jersey Devil down south. I've not seen them, but I've heard the same things.
Yep. We did an episode on that. It was a awesome, fantastic story.
Now, my question, why do we know they don't exist?
We don't know that they don't exist. It's because you can't prove that something doesn't exist.
Exactly.
It doesn't work scientifically that way. All you can do is prove its existence by finding evidence that supports that. You know this, but speaking of looking out at things, having a view of the world, you have a couple other jobs that you do. Let's talk about the esports and let's talk about the drones.
Like I said, I like my technology and I like my computers. And I never say no. Okay. So when I got to my current job at Kean, we were working on our new campus, and
this is the Skylands campus.
The Skylands campus in Jefferson, and one of my coworkers had a drone. I'm like, oh, I love drones. And one of the big parts of environmental science is mapping and understanding our space in the universe and our space on the Earth. So a huge job for all of you out there, if you want to get into environmental science and get paid a good amount of money very quickly, there's this thing called GIS. It's basically mapping and figuring out the relationship between our topography, our Earth, and all of the features and stuff. And it's huge. So that was something that I used to work with, and we would map things. We would take this GPS system, a giant backpack back in the day, with this little handheld system, and we'd walk around everywhere for hours and hours and hours, just walking, what we call transects, back and forth, trying to get a map of the area. And now we have these drones, and you just fly it for 15 minutes and you get what I used to do for days and days. So the technology has changed and it's beautiful. And so he brought this drone. I'm like, oh, we have drones. And he's like, I don't think we do. This is the only one. And I'm like, oh, can we borrow it? He's like, yeah, sure. And so I went to the college to sign out the equipment. I'm like, when do you want it back? They're like, nobody asks for it. And I'm like, well, so can I just use it? They're like, yeah, bring it back whenever you're done with it. I still have that drone.
Wow.
Yeah, and it kind of started a discussion at the university, and to give them all the credit in the world, my boss was like, "Can we make this into something bigger?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure." And so she started the discussion at a higher level, and she said, "Give me a budget," and I did, small, medium, and large, and they saw the potential in it, and gave me larger than the large budget that I wanted. And now we have a fleet of drones, and we use them for agriculture. We use them for like I said, the mapping and topography, hydrology. They're really huge in the industry right now. So we're giving our students a nice introduction, and I get to fly drones all day long. My wife doesn't love it because there's always drones taking up space.
Oh, I'm sure.
House.
Yeah.
And they get large.
Well, no one can have just one, right?
No, it's like potato chips. You can't have just one.
So let's talk a little bit about, though, you need to be licensed to fly a drone.
Yes.
There are places you can't fly a drone. I just want to make sure we don't inspire somebody to go out and buy a drone and go crazy tomorrow.
Now, go out and buy a drone and go crazy, and then take my class and find out why you were crazy. Because we started this class that teaches about how and where you can fly drones, and then it became a drone minor. But people really didn't realize that there are rules behind it. You can fly a drone without a license. You just have to take a little safety test online, but you can't do it for profit. So you can't make money flying a drone. So anything, commercials and mapping, like I said, and a lot of emergency management people use it, but that's kind of under a different rule. But you have to have a license if you want to fly a drone professionally. And there are very strict regulations, because as soon as you leave, like Michael Jordan has been owned by the FAA for a long time, because as soon as you leave the ground, you're owned by the FAA. So the FAA owns all of the airspace, and because the drones are in airspace, there are very, 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 very strict regulations that people aren't aware of. And now that drones are becoming more popular, they're kind of paying more attention to it. And so we've kind of become our own worst enemy, because we've fallen in love with this industry. We've fallen in love with this technology. And because we've fallen in love with it and kind of made it better and better, now the eyes are on us. All
right. Esports. Ooh. Talk to us about esports. This was fascinating to me.
To go along with that technology, I'm an old video game guy. So when I was teaching at Kean, one of my favorite students, hi Victoria, was in my class, and I do my introductions in the first week of class. And she was the president of the esports club. And she's like, and we're starting a competitive esports program. I'm like, well, get me in on this. And so she's like, we have a coach, Matt, and he's wonderful. And we're building this esports arena. And I'm like, oh, well, I'm definitely in on this then. So
let's back up a second here, though, because I don't know that everybody understands what esports is.
Oh, it's competitive video games. What my mom said I'd never make any money doing. It is the fastest growing sport in the United States. Woo, go esport. But there is a huge industry. Again, these industries pop up because we go where the interest goes around video games. And now video games literally fill stadiums. So when I was younger, we would play on Nintendo, and it was a very, very personal thing because you had to be right next to the person.
Right.
But as the internet came in, I made some of my best friends playing video games that I've never literally seen. They live miles and miles away. Like, so we had a video game group around a game called Halo. And we started this group, and I'm still friends with them to this day. Some live out in Missouri, and some live nearby because we're in an urban area. So everybody lives in the tri-state area. But we had somebody who lived on a reservation out in so these amazing people, and I got to meet them, and it became a big part of my life in my early years. of video games. So we started tournaments, we played with the video game developers and stuff, and it got bigger and bigger. And it takes a lot of time. So I kind of moved away from that as I went into geology and environmental science. But this all brought it back. So when they said video game, we're doing this esports thing, I was like, I need to be part of this. So I called the athletic director. He's like, we'd love to have you aboard. And we have this beautiful, beautiful arena that they built. And now we have, what I love about it is that we have 50 students in the program, and we play about a dozen different types of games. So we have sports games, and we have fighting games, and we have shooting games, and we have card games. So we have all these different things. But what I love about it is there is no entry. There is no barrier to entry. Everybody can play video games. So that like you get the spectrum of everybody. There is no sex, there is no gender, there is no race, that everybody is the same behind the keyboard. So it is an amazing chance. And it's tough because, like I said, I don't say no. When somebody asks like, oh, can we play this video game? Yes. So it's tough because then the program keeps growing bigger and bigger and bigger. So it gets more to manage, but you can't, there's a passion behind it, which is a blessing and a curse. There's this passion behind it that everybody wants to be a part of. And the blessing is everybody gets to be a part of it. The curse is that, man, there is so much growth. Where do we put the walls to stop the growth? And you don't want to ever take advantage of anybody's passion, but everybody will, because it's this thing that they're interested in, they're going to do anyway. They're like, I'll do it for free. And I'm like, no, you will not do it for free. Like, you try to find the advantages, and you try to find where we can we'll give students credit for doing the broadcasting, and we'll give students credit for coaching the teams, and we try to pay them for coaching the teams and overseeing things, because they'll do it for free. And I'm like, no.
Well, that was going to be my question, actually. How do the students get credit for this? I mean, how does this work? And also, can you walk us through, if I walked into this arena that you're talking about, what does it look like?
Oh, it's gorgeous. We have pictures all over online, but we have a general area where you have about 20 computers that students from Kean can come in at any time and play. So that's our general area, and we're open during the day, and at night we have this nice competitive area where we have a big screen in the back, and we have 2 sets of 6 computers on each side of where they can compete against each other, or they're competing in their separate games. And then we put the game up on the big screen so that spectators can watch those games. And that's, it's a beautiful system. They really invested a good amount to make this what it is. And the students benefit. The problem is we can't give credit for playing, just like any sport. They get what they can get. They get early registration to classes, and they get to be part of the team. So they get a jersey, and they get to put it on their resume, but they are part of the team. It is absolutely 100% team sports. So they really they spend a lot of time, more time than I asked them to practice.
Are these programs becoming popular in other universities? Is this something that's starting to pop up?
They are popping up, and that again comes with the difficulty of growth, because they're popping up everywhere, and it's kind of like madness. Who's controlling this? Because we have this beautiful place, and we're playing some places that are playing from their dorm rooms. So it's like the programs are popping up, and then now universities and larger systems are seeing it more and more, so they're investing more and more and more and more, which is exactly what we want to be at the forefront. I want to be the best and the only, but I don't. You want
it to grow. Yeah. Is there a World Series equivalent? Is there somewhere where all of these different teams can come together?
With colleges, we all have our own like individual conferences. So we play colleges all the way in California sometimes. And even though we're an East Coast conference, there's no limit to entry because we don't have to get on a plane or we don't have to get on a bus.
Right.
We can play them from anywhere. And that's the beauty of this is that, but the hard part is, you're playing people from different time zones. And so it's tough to organize schedules and it's tough to organize who has the resources to actually do it versus who's just kind of, again, playing from a laptop in a dark area. So the regulations are becoming now that just like drones, as it gets more and more popular, we're seeing more and more regulations. We're seeing more investment in it. And that's exactly what we want, again, because we want to be recognized as not only as an actual sport, but we want to be recognized for all of the good things that we're doing. And with video games, you have that old fashioned, it's just some kid in his basement. Mm-hmm. It's not. We have true athletes, and they're athletic, they're brilliant, they're smart, they're hardworking, and they need to be recognized. And the more this comes out into the daylight, the more recognition that they're going to get. And that's the great part.
Well, I love that. So you had said to me you had the best job in the world. I believe you after listening to your passion about this. It's phenomenal. I really need to stop by and see this. I know we're on the same campus, but it's a large campus and we don't necessarily cross paths.
Yeah, it's a large campus. And I talked to somebody this week that was forced to visit almost because they had a job to do. And so they were bringing students over and they're like, I never knew this was here. I was like, that's my fault. I got to tell more people.
Well, hopefully we'll get the word out.
Yeah, hopefully this will help because it deserves to be recognized. And like you said, I fly drones and I fish and I play video games for a living. It truly is the best. It's dangerously good. Don't tell them I love my job because again,
never give you a raise. I think we're stuck, both of us. It's true. If people want to learn more about this program, the esports program or the drone program, where can they get information?
I mean, we have our website, the Kean website. If you just search Kean and drones or Kean and esports, you'll see my email pop up. But you can post my email or post my contact information. My phone number too. Everybody can call.
Now, the drone program is available to anybody outside of the Kean community, correct?
We run a training program that is available to everybody, and then we run our classes that you can enroll for. And if you're just bored, again, if you just see me on campus, there's a good chance I have a drone with me. So you can just stop me and say hello, and I will definitely fly drones with you. My buddy, my buddy once called me and he's like, Joe, I have these friends near me and they want to see a drone. Are you available? And I was like, yeah, I got one in my car right now. I'll be right there. So,
you're like the guy in the movie who pops up right behind him and goes, here's a drone.
Yeah, that is me. So there's a good chance I have a drone with me and there's a good chance I have my video games with me. Good thing is you can carry them with you nowadays.
Good to know you're prepared.
Yeah. We're going to play and we're going to fly.
Well, good. So is there anything else you want us to know about Joe Sarnoski?
Oh no, I'm scarily who I am. I'm brutally honest, and when I say I love my job, this is the first time I could ever truly say that. And because I didn't say no to things, like I ended up with video games and drones. Don't say no to things, because when you say yes, you end up in some bad situations sometimes. But then you end up, I ended up where I am, and I literally could not be happier. So
that's fantastic.
And I get to, honestly, Ken, I get to meet you.
And likewise, Joe. No, I'm so thrilled that you were able to join us for Drive By History. You're part of the Drive By History family now.
I hope so. I hope we get to meet up more and more and more.
We will. I'm sorry we never got that picture, though, in the red wagon thing that was in front of the mine.
Listen, I live close. Just
we'll grab Rich. We'll all go down there. I know when you all watch the episode, you'll see what I'm talking about. But we unfortunately never made it into that. I also have never gotten dirtier than I did climbing through that mine, as you'll remember.
I know. And for those who watch it, Ken, you're a very tall person.
Yes, I am.
And you had me walking in the muddy ditch. I just hurt my knee about a day before that shooting, and there was a small cart path that they probably don't get to see because of probably just taping the top halves of us, but it's a very uneven surface, and we were both walking in a very, very, very gross, muddy.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what Joe is saying is I put him in the water, and I also made him look shorter than he is, because he's actually not short at all. But compared to me, he's going to look small.
I'm going to look minuscule. That's okay with me. Well, we can highlight you. I know you deserve it.
Hey, this show's always about you guys. It's not about me. I'm just the conduit.
It was perfect.
Well, this has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to talk with us. Give our audience a chance to get to know you a little bit better and understand what you do, which is so many things. You are truly a Renaissance man, Joe.
I love what I do. So again, it's not that I'm pursuing these things. It's just I just find things that I love and just keep doing them. So I'm like this, like I said, I want to do this forever. So
fantastic. Well, I'm happy to know you. I'm happy to have you as part of the DBH family, and I can't wait until we get to work together again.
You're going to visit me in the esports arena.
I am absolutely going to do that. So for anybody watching, if you want to learn more about our show, you can visit drivebyhistory.org. You can watch past episodes of the show. You can learn about what's coming up and catch up with all of our podcasts that we're going to be releasing. All right. We will see you all soon. Thank you, Joe. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you soon.